Hello everyone, welcome to Native Mobile Bits. In today's video, we are going to integrate Firebase inside our Jetpack Compose application, and we are going to allow users to actually create accounts using our application, and then eventually they can log in inside our application using the same credentials which they have provided at the time of sign up. So let's start today's video. So the first step will be we need some dependency to integrate Firebase SDK. So we can just use these dependency. Basically this is for entire Firebase platform, and then we can use the respective needed dependency we need. Okay, so we can just copy these two and we can add inside our build.gradle. Now as we are using KTS, so we just need to change this syntax little bit. Okay, we need to use inverted commas here and here as well, and like this. So this way we can integrate this basic platform, and then as we are going to use authentication extension, we can just add this as well in KTS syntax. Okay, now we can sync our project. We can also do these things with the help of this tools and Firebase, and then we can choose the respective needed thing. So now our dependencies are added, project is synced. Now for the next step, we need to connect our project with Firebase console. Okay, so we'll just take this name of our project, we'll just go to Firebase console, and we are going to add, and we are going to click on this continue button, and we will enable this Google Analytics as we are going to use this also in our future videos, and we will just continue. Okay, we will just create the project. Now Firebase is creating one respective project for our Jetpack Compose application. Inside this project itself, all of the data will be stored, and we will also fetch the data. We will authenticate our users with the help of this project. Okay, our project is ready. We can click on this continue and it will take us to the project dashboard. Okay, now we need to add this Firebase inside our application. So we are going to add this in Android as of now. Okay, so we need to add the package of our application here. So we will just go to build.gradle and we will just take this package. Okay, and this is the same as application ID. Basically application ID and namespace both are having the same value. We can just take this and we can just add this inside our registration where we are trying to register our application. Okay, so we can add this, and this is optional, but we can take the name, and this is going to be again our login flow app. Okay, and if we want to add SHA1 key, we can add this, but this is optional for now, so we are not going to add this, and we will click on register application. Okay, now it will give us one JSON file. We need to use this JSON file inside our application. Okay, so let's download this. Okay, so it's downloaded, and let me just try to add this inside our project. So we need to add this inside application. Okay, if I show you the architecture again, we need to add this inside this application folder. So to add this, first best thing is let's go to project structure, and inside our application module add this file. Okay, google services.json. Now if you just see this file, it has some data related to our application, our package name and so on. Now we can close this and we can go back to this registration form. Now we have added this. If we click on the next button, it will show us that we need to add this Google Play services inside our project root label Gradle. Okay, so we'll just go to our project root label build.gradle file, and here we will add this. And as we are using Kotlin KTS, we can just change this according to KTS syntax. We can just take this value and we can add here inside ID. Then we can define version. We can just take this value. Okay, and we need to use apply false, and inside Kotlin KTX we need to just change this to dot. Okay, and then we can click on sync now. Now our project will be synced with this Google Play service as well. Our build is successful. Okay, now if we just go to our instructions page, then it is also telling us to integrate this Firebase dependency which we have already added, and if we click on next, it is saying you are all set. Now we can just go to the documentation or sample application. Okay, so we'll just continue to console, and now we are ready with the dependency part. Okay, now before we proceed, one very important thing we need to do is we need to take this plugin and we need to add this inside app level plugins as well. We just need to add the ID itself. Okay, and we will just sync our project, and our project is synced. Now one change we need to make inside our UI is that we should be enabling this button, this register button, once all of the validations are in check. If there is any error inside any field, our button should not be enabled. Okay, so that once every validation is fine, then our button will be enabled, and then when we click on the register button, we will initiate the sign up process inside our Firebase project. Okay, so for that, let's add one key here, is enabled, and let's make it boolean, and by default pass as false. Okay, now we need to add this inside our button. We have one parameter called enabled. We will just add this is enabled value. Okay, now we will just go to sign up screen, and here inside our button component we need to just pass is enabled. We need to pass the value for is enabled. Now we need to pass is enabled as true if all of the validations are fine. So for that, let's go to our view model, and inside our view model we have this method where we are just checking the validation with our rules, right? If you have missed the previous video, you can check out those videos where we have implemented this custom validation for our UI state. Okay, now we need one state or one variable which can update us if all of the variables are true or not, right? So let's define one variable, all validations passed, and let's create a mutable state of by default false value. So it is kind of a boolean variable which will update based on the validations. Okay, now inside our validation function we have this result for each UI field. Like if we have a rule for first name, if first name is passed the validation from our validator, we will have this first name result as true. Same for email and password. Okay, so we need to write one condition here that if first name result dot status is true and last name status is also true, means if first name and last name are validated and are proper. And for our email as well, if email result status is true, means email is also valid. And for our password status is also true, means our password is also valid. So we can update the variable all validation passed dot value equal to true. Okay, if all of the fields are validated, we can update this mutable state. Okay, if any validation is failing, we can just update all validation passed dot value is false. Okay, we can also simplify this expression that this value will only be true if all of the validations are true. Okay, now we have updated this state all validation passed based on the respective validations. Now we need to use this inside sign up screen. So with the help of login view model dot all validation passed dot value. Okay, so if all validation are passed, so our validations will be true, so we will enable the button, else our button will be disabled. Now let's try to run our application and let's see if this logic is working fine. How we can identify that? If our button will be clickable, we will be passing on this event, and this event we are using inside our view model, and we are having one log inside sign up. Okay, so we can just clear everything, and first of all let's enter some value here, and we can quickly add some random values. Now our button is enabled. Okay, so if we are clicking on our button, we are able to click and we are getting this inside sign up as well. Okay, and if we remove any value and a validation is failed, okay, right now one validation is failed. If we click on the button, button is not clickable. Okay, I am trying to click but it's not clickable. The moment we entered all proper values, our button will be clickable. Okay, if we have any error, it is not clickable. If we have proper values, so it's clickable. Okay, now this logic is working fine. Now we can just go back to our view model, and inside our view model we can create one function, create user in Firebase. Okay, this function will take two parameter, email of string type and password of string type. Okay, and we will pass this email and password when we click on this register button. So let's go to this sign up, and inside sign up we can remove this validation now, because our validations are happening whenever we are entering the values. So inside our sign up button we can just call this function, create user in Firebase. Now we need to pass two value, email and password. Okay, how we can pass this value? We have the values entered by user inside state. Okay, and we can just update the value. And if you are wondering that how we are having the values inside state, we are updating the state in every event, and these events are triggered whenever user is entering anything. And if you want to check how we implemented this, you can check out the previous videos. Here we are just going to use the values from our state. Okay, for password as well we will just take from value. Okay, now we are getting the value here. Now we can make this as private, because this function will be called when we call this sign up function. Now inside our create user in Firebase function, we are going to use this Firebase auth dot get instance. And before we use this, let's try to create one application class. We will call it login flow app. Okay, and this app will extend application class. Okay, and inside application class on create function, this is basically the launching point of our application. So here we will initialize the Firebase app. Okay, so we will just call this initialize app, and we will just pass the application level context. Now we need to use this inside our manifest. We will just use with the help of name, and now we can just go back to our view model. We can close all of those files. Okay, so now inside this function we can easily hold the instance. Inside this we can just call this function create user with email and password. We can just pass email and password which we are getting inside this function, and we are going to add few callback method, that if everything is completed, okay, we will just add this. We will also add one function for error, like if it's failing, so we will get any error and all inside this function. Okay, we can add some logs for now. Okay, and let's say inside on complete listener, and we will add few other things. Let's say we access this task which we are getting inside this on complete listener, and we add is successful. Okay, and we can just take this key equal to for our readability, and we can add some logs inside on failure listener as well. We can just add tag, and we can add inside on failure listener. Okay, and we are getting some exception inside this. We can print that as well. So we can just say exception, and we can access to this it dot message. We can also print localized message, which will be same, but still let's try to print this. Okay, now let's try to run our application, and let's see if we are getting Firebase in action, something is happening inside our application or not. Okay, so let's enter some values here. We are entering same value again and again. Next time we will enter something different, but it's fine. Okay, so if we see there is one error and our button is not clickable yet. Now we enter 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, and it's clickable now, and we can just go back and we can go to our console and we will click on this button. Okay, so we are getting some logs. Okay, so first of all we are coming inside this sign up function, then we are calling this function, and it's coming in on complete listener or is successful is true. Okay, so if it's giving us is successful as true, so let's go back to our console and let's see if we are having any user. Okay, yeah, so just now as we have entered these values, Harry and all of these things, and we are getting callback inside on complete listener, this one, our Firebase code is executed, then our task is successful. Okay, and we have one user created for us. Okay, we have this identifier as a email, and then we have one user ID as well. So one thing we have missed, this checkbox we have, right? So if user is not clicking this, we should not be allowing user to create any user and all, right? We should be only proceeding this functionality when user select this, right? That means user has read our terms of use and privacy policy kind of thing, right? So for that we can just go to our UI state, we can define one another variable, let's say checkbox, or let's call it privacy error. This is by default as false. Okay, and now we can utilize this inside our view model. Okay, so we can just go back to our composable and we can add one function here, on checked change. Okay, and this will be of boolean type, and let's return it as unit high order function. Okay, and we can call this inside here on check change dot invoke, and we can pass the value which will be it. Okay, so we have this inside our sign up screen. Here we can just get on checked change. Okay, inside this we will be getting the value if it's true or false, that means if it's selected or not. Now whenever user interact with the checkbox, we will get a callback inside this function. Okay, so let's define one UI event for this. Okay, and let's say data class checkbox, or let's say privacy policy checkbox clicked. Okay, and we can just pass the value, let's say it will be status if it's true or false. Okay, and we will just create one UI event. Okay, now inside this event we are passing the status which is coming if user is selected this checkbox, true will come here. Okay, so now we need to emit this UI event inside this. So we can just use login view model dot on event, and we can pass this UI event dot privacy policy clicked, and we can pass the boolean value which is coming from this function. Okay, we need to handle this inside our login view model as well. We have this on event function, so we can define is UI event dot privacy policy checkbox. Inside this we can update the UI state. Now how we can update the UI state, and if you have seen the previous video you will be familiar with this, but if you are not familiar with that, you can check out the video, and we can do this with the help of our UI state variable value, and we need to update this value with the help of copy, and here we need to add one new field inside our registration state. So let's add privacy policy accepted. Okay, and we have already defined respective error. Okay, now we need to update this field here, and we will add the naming parameter privacy policy accepted, and we will just pass event dot status. okay, because we are passing this value status from here, okay, from our sign up screen, and inside our view model we have updated that value inside UI state, okay. Now we need to use this inside our validation rules, okay. So for this we will define one new rule, and let's use one variable, privacy policy result, okay, and we will define with the help of validator. And let's say first we define one rule, we will define one function, validate privacy policy acceptance, and we are already having a status value that if it's accepted or not, it's boolean value we have, and we are going to return one validation result, okay. Inside this we will just return validation result as we have the status value, okay. So we are storing status value as true if user is selecting this, if user is not selecting this we are having status value as false, okay. So we are returning the same value inside our validation result, like if user has accepted is, that means this validation is passed, if user has not accepted this, that means validation is failed, okay. Now we can use this inside our view model, okay, and here we can just pass status value with the help of our registration UI state dot value dot privacy policy accepted, okay. We can use this inside one log if we need, we can just print this for now, and we can update our global UI state, okay. If there is any error inside privacy policy, we can just access privacy policy result dot status, okay. And we can update this also, like all validation condition passed will also have now this checkbox condition, okay. So we can just use privacy policy result dot status, if everything is true then our global validation will be passed, okay. Now let's try to run our application and let's see if this checkbox is validating. So we can just enter some values. So we have entered all of these values. If we try to click this, it is not clickable yet because we have not selected this checkbox. The moment we select this, our state is updated, and if you see the result, the validation result for privacy policy is also true because we have selected this. If we uncheck this, it's false, okay. Let's select this again, and now if we try to click on this, it will be clickable, okay. And then our code will be executed. The email address is badly formatted, it is coming in on failure listener, and because we are already having this email as a user, right, we have this harry@gmail.com one user, and this is one primary identifier, that's why we are getting this error. So now if we have entered some different values and if we try to click on register and let's see the logs, so it is coming inside on completion listener and it is task is successful. And if we refresh the console, we can see that one new user is created, rowan@gmail.com, okay. So when our registration is successful, let's try to add one new screen, and we can open our main activity. We can just go to our post office app, and then we have all of the screens here, right. Let's say we define one new screen, okay. So for that we need to go inside screens and we need to add one new composable, and let's say we call it home screen, okay. So here we will define one composable function and we will call it as home screen, okay. So we need to define this inside our router first of all, okay. So we can just come here, we can define one new object, home screen, okay. This will be of type screen itself. Then we need to go inside our post office app, we need to define here as well that if screen is home screen, we need to go to home screen, okay. We have defined this. Now we can modify our home screen little bit, so we can just take the same code. For now let's say we take the parent like this, okay. So we define this here and like this. So this is our home screen. We have one surface. We can define one composable for preview. So we can just say home screen preview. Okay, and inside this we can use our home screen. So for reference, as of now we can just add one heading text component, and for now, and let's add value as home for now. Okay, so now we have our normal home screen. So whenever our task is successful, right, so we can add one condition: if task is successful. Okay, so here we can just use our router and we can navigate to home screen. Okay, let's try to run the program and let's see if we are actually routing to the home screen, right? If we are creating one user, one successful user is getting created, and are we able to navigate to the home screen? So if we create one new user this time and we select this as well, we click on this registration, and yes, we are coming to our home screen. Whenever our new user is getting created, we are coming to home screen. So we can do one thing, we can just create one loader kind of thing, and for that we need to just go to our sign up screen, and inside our sign up screen we need to add one box, and this will be of type modifier. We can just use as modifier dot fill max size. Okay, and we can just use one content alignment, and we can just pass alignment dot center. Okay, we have added one box, and inside this box we can just take the surface. Okay, let's add it here, and let's add one circular progress indicator. Okay, but we need to show this circular progress indicator only if sign up is in progress, right? So for that, let's create one new state and write it sign up in progress, and let's define one mutable state. Initial value is false, and whenever we click on that sign up button, right, whenever we are coming inside this create user in Firebase, immediately we will just make that value as true. Okay, and whenever the user is created, here we can just make the value as false. Okay, now we can use this inside our sign up screen, and we can just use login view model dot sign up is in progress, then show this only if it's true. Okay, now let's run our application, and now we should be having one loader as well when our sign up is in progress. So if we just create one new user, okay, we select this, we click on register, so our progress bar is there. Now we are landed on our home screen. Okay, now let's try to define one sign out button. For now we will define that inside home screen as well, but later on we are going to add navigation drawer and everything. For now, let's go to our home screen. Okay, let's add one button here. Okay, this is our button component. We can just pass, let's take this to a string first of all. So extract string resource, and yes, now inside our button component we can just write logout. Okay, we can take this also to our string resources, and then inside on button clicked we need to do something, right? So here also we can just take reference to our login view model. Okay, let's say we create one function logout inside our view model, so we can just call logout. Okay, and we will call this function from our home screen. Alright, inside our logout function we can create one variable to get access to this Firebase auth, and we can just use Firebase auth dot get instance. Now we have the instance, we can use this to sign out. Okay, now how we can validate if sign out is successfully done or not? So for that we can just create one variable, and we can create auth state listener. Okay, and we can just use auth state listener like this. Inside this we are getting Firebase authentication. Okay, So we can check that if it dot user current user is null, that means our sign out is successful, and we can add this inside our add auth state listener. Okay, we can just add this inside our Firebase authentication instance, and then inside this we have one log, right? For now we can just define one log. Now we can use this code. Okay, now let's run our application and let's see if it's working as expected. If we select this, we click on register, so one new user is created and we are coming inside our home screen. This button placement is not good, but if we try to click on this, are we able to log out? Let's check that. So if we click on this, oh, by default this button is, having that component which is false, is enabled is false. So we can pass one parameter is enabled, and let's say we add it as true. Okay, so we can delete this user which we have created, right? Virat, and we will create this again. We click on register. Okay, so our user is created. If we try to click on this button, are we getting any event? Let's click on this logout. So we are getting inside sign out success. Okay, so our user is logged out now, and if we just go back, application is closing. But for now, like from home, we should be able to go to the login screen or somewhere if we just try to go back or if we try to log out, right? And for that we can just use our router. So we can just use router dot navigate to, and let's say login screen. Okay, so whenever our sign out is successful, we are trying to navigate to login screen. Okay, so instead of creating new user every time, we are going to implement the functionality for our login screen. Okay, so first of all, let's make some changes inside our files. So we have this login view model, and most of the code and methods are used inside our sign up screen. So let's refactor this and let's call it as sign up view model. Okay, this UI event also, this is related to registration screen, so we are going to call this also as sign up UI event. Okay, now we are going to create functionality for our login screen. So our login screen needs one view model and then it needs one login UI state. Okay, so first of all, let's create one login UI state. Okay, and our login UI state will only have email and password, right? It will only have email and password, and then only chances are that either email can have error or password can have error. Okay, so our login UI state will only have these four fields, email and password, to hold the value of these fields, and then if there is any error, so we will have two error variables also. Now we need to define some login UI event. Okay, so let's create one new class login UI event, and this login UI event can only have email change and password change, like user can change the value of email and password, and then user can click on this login button. Okay, so we have defined one login UI event class also. Now we need one view model. Okay, so let's create one normal view model class and we will call it as login view model. Okay, and let's extend it with view model. Okay, we will add one constructor. Now let's open our sign up view model and let's code quickly. Okay, so let's minimize this. So first of all, we will need one tag, okay, inside our view model. So we can just use login view model as the tag name. Then we need to hold our UI state, right? So we can just create one variable login UI state, okay, and we can create one mutable state of login UI state. Okay, this one. Now we need to have one validation check for login state, right? So we can define one variable state. Let's take this. Let's minimize this little bit. And we are going to take validation passed. So we can say we can use the same name. That's fine. And then we need to have one variable for login in progress. Okay, this will again be one mutable state of boolean type false. Okay, now let's write one function to handle the event from our login UI. So it will be having one event of login UI event, and inside this we can write one when condition, that if our event is login UI event dot email change, then we need to do something. If our event is that if our password is changed, then we need to do something. Okay, and if our last event can be if our button is clicked, right, then we need to do something. So now we need to define the functionality here, so we can just use from our sign up view model. Okay, and so if our email is changed, we need to update that inside our UI state. Our UI state will be login UI state. Okay, so like this we can update the value. This is just for printing the state, so we no need to print anything for now. We need to update the same thing inside password, so we can just update password whenever anything is changed inside password field. Now whenever the login button is clicked, we can write one login function. Okay, we can create one function login. So as we can see that we have one validation function where we are validating everything from our validator. So we can create something similar. So I have created one for our validation. Validate login UI data with rules. Okay, so here we just need to pass our login UI state, and we will get result for our email and password. So we need to update our login UI state value globally. Okay, and to do that we need to use the same way, same technique. We need to update email error. If there is any error inside email field, so we'll just get with the help of email result dot status, and then for password error we will just get from our password result dot status, like this. Now we got the result of email and password, so we can update all validation passed value, like everything is validated if email result is true and password validation result is also true. Now we can use this inside our login screen. Okay, so we can come here, and inside this button we can just pass with the help of login view model. So first of all we need to use now login view model here. Okay, we can remove this, and we need to use this login view model inside text event change as well. We will pass login UI event email change, and we will use here as well login UI event password change. Okay, now for our button component, to make it enable or disable, we are going to use this all validation passed, right? So we are going to add this check that login view model dot all validation passed dot value. Okay, this we are passing for is enabled, like this. So if everything will be passed inside validation, our login button will be enabled. Okay, now we need to just use this method validate UI data with rules below our when condition. Okay, we need to implement the functionality for our login method, right? So let's take this below, and here we are going to add the functionality. So we need to just use Firebase auth dot get instance. Okay, and we need to use this sign in with email and password, and we need to use this email and password via our UI state. Okay, so we can just use, we can create one variable if you want to simplify like this dot value dot email, and for password as well we can take from login UI state dot value dot password. Okay, and we can pass these email and password. Then for completion, we can add one lambda function that if everything is fine and it's completed, and then we can add one for failure as well. Okay, we can add some log here. Okay, and we can use the tag, and we can add inside login success, and we can use one value from this task result if it's successful, and if it's successful we can just pass our router. Okay, and we can navigate to home screen. Okay, if it's successful, and if it's failed, then we can just add one login failure, and we can add the print statement with error message as well. Okay, this is the code. Now we need to add one progress bar also, so we can just go to our login screen, we can minimize everything. Okay, we can take this code from our sign up screen as well, because everything is going to be same, and we can add one box composable. Box is kind of a frame layout, right? So we have this screen, then we are going to add one frame layout, and then we are going to add one indicator, which is kind of circular progress indicator, right? So we can add it here like this, and this system back button handler is just for our back button navigation. Okay, so this is the screen we have, but this circular progress indicator should be only shown if login is in progress. We have this variable, so we can add this here. If login view model login is in progress, then show this, else we will not show this. We need to access this via value. Okay, now we need to update this value also, right? Somewhere, like we need to make it true. So whenever we are logging in, we can make it true. Okay, and once login is complete, we can make it as false. Okay, well, let's say we make it inside is successful itself. Okay, so this error is not disappearing because we have not added the error status inside our components here. So if we see inside sign up screen, we have already added this error status, right? So we can access via login view model dot login UI state dot value dot email error, and same way we can access for our password error. Okay, so now we have added everything. We need to just emit one event, which will be our login button clicked event, which is this login button clicked. So whenever our login button is clicked, we are going to access login view model, and we are going to pass one UI event, which will be login UI event dot login button clicked. Now we have passed this event, and we are using this event inside our login view model, and we are going to perform login when someone clicks on this button. Now let's run our application, and now let's see the login functionality as well. If we click on login, so as of now both fields are having error. If we enter one user which we have created, okay, let's enter proper values, and if we click on this login button, so we can see that our progress bar is shown, and we are navigated to home screen, right? So if we just go to our logcat, so we can see that we are coming inside login success. Okay, and we are navigating to home screen, right? If we click on this logout button, our logout is also success. And if we just go to our home screen, and we added this sign up view model dot logout, right? So we are logging out, and we can see these logs with the help of sign up view model. So we are signing out, and we are coming back to our login screen. Okay, so this is the functionality we are having as of now. If we create one new user, let me show you one new user. So let's create Android, okay, and OS. Let's use Android @google.com for password. Let's enter same thing, and if we click on this, then only this button will be enabled, else this is not enabled. And let's say we create this user, so it is creating one new user properly, and we can see we have this logout option. We can log out, we can come back to login screen, and now we can use that id android@google.com, and we can enter some wrong password. Let's try to see what will happen. So we are getting some error, I think, hopefully. And if we just use login view model, right, so we are coming inside login failure, but we are still seeing this progress bar, right? So we need to hide this inside our error state as well. Okay, so now we have stopped the progress bar inside failure as well. Now let's try to run the application, and let's try to go to login, and let's try to use the user which we are using inside the login flow, ron@gmail.com, and let's try to enter proper values. And if we click on this login, so it will take us to the home screen, and then we can click on this logout and we will come back to our login page. We can go back to register page, and we can go back to login page again, and we have this small piece of application getting a good shape. We'll keep on making it better and better. In the next videos we are going to implement dagger and so many other things. You can just have a glimpse of the users which we have created inside our Firebase database. And yeah, so friends, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoy this, and if you have enjoyed this video, please hit that like, share and subscribe button. Also please share these videos with someone who is learning Android or Jetpack Compose, or if they want to learn Android or Jetpack Compose, you can share it with them, and I will see you in the next videos.